This is episode 196 of the Mixology Talk podcast. And in this episode, we will be talking with two legends in the industry, Anthony Diaz-Blue and Jeffrey Morgenthaler, about the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. The amount of effort that it takes to take on this competition every year is got to be just a lot of work. So we're going to get a little bit behind the scenes and learn a little bit more about the process. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mixology Talk podcast. Today, I'm excited to talk to two people about the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. Two people that probably need no introduction, but Anthony Diaz-Blue is the Executive Director of San Francisco World Spirits Competition, and we have Jeffrey Morgenthaler here, who is the head judge of the San Francisco World Spirits Competition as well. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Chris.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you guys on, man. So obviously, before we started recording, Anthony, you mentioned that you had just gone through this year's tasting panel sweepstakes, and you have a lot of information you probably want to share with us, correct?
Well, yes, it was an interesting year, obviously, because of what went before. And just to give you a little background, we did the 2020 spirits competition on the weekend before everything shut down. I mean, it wasn't intended, but that's the way it worked out. And so like March 12th, 13th, and 14th, we did our spirits competition in San Francisco. And as we were leaving the hotel with all our stuff, the hotel closed and didn't open again. I don't know whether they even have opened again, but I think they probably have. But anyway, so we've learned a lot of interesting techniques to continue, because in the middle of the whole pandemic thing, we did the San Francisco International Wine Competition, and we did it based on the format that our good friends in London have been using for years, which is not to have everybody at the same time. And we usually had about 65 judges for wine, but to have to do it in a place where we could be for a week or two and have a smaller number of judges and do it over a longer period of time. So that worked for wine. So we tried the same thing this year for spirits. And we figured, we had 3,000 last year. Gosh, we hope we'll make it to 3,500. Well, can I tell you that it was 3,800 when we?
Wow, that's incredible.
So we had 3,800 spirits to go through, which was fascinating exercise, believe me. And we did the sweepstakes this past week. Mm-hmm. And what can I tell you? I'm very proud of my people and very pleased with the results.
Excellent. And we will wait to see those results when they come out.
Should be any minute now. I mean, we're a little bit hamstrung without the central office that we used to have.
Sure.
But we should have everything up on the sfspiritscomp.com website within the next week.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. So I want to kind of start at the beginning here, and I have two questions for you, gentlemen. First of all, what was kind of the inspiration for starting this competition?
Well, I think I can answer that. It was the year 2000. Mm-hmm. And we had the wine competition had been going for, 30 years at that point. And I looked around and I saw that all the coffee houses were turning into bars. And I said, I think there's a trend here. And sure enough, so it was 2000, and then we took a little bit of a hiatus, and then we did it in a latter part of 2001. And uh, the first one, we had 287 entries. And I like to point out that we had 8 gins entered. And this year we had 408 gins. Anyway, so we did it at first in a very nice hotel in San Francisco, which we outgrew after 3 or 4 years. And it just got bigger and bigger in terms of entries. We've got a lot of traction in the world because there had not been another important spirits competition like this, and except for the one in England. And we, gained a worldwide reputation right away, which was, maybe we didn't deserve it at the time, but we got it. And I think we deserve it now. And what can I say? I'm very, very proud and pleased with everything that's gone ahead with this thing. And I think we provide a very good service to consumers, because it basically says, when you walk into a wine or into a spirit shop and you see 60 single malts or 60 gins, where to go, how to choose. So I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely want to talk about that in a second here. But Jeffrey, I kind of want to get your history. Like, how did you and Anthony kind of cross paths, and how did you get involved in the tasting panel?
Oh, wow. I mean, I had been, I had been reading Andy's work for a long time. I was a big fan of his book, The Complete Guide to Spirits, and we had been kind of, as I was coming up through the industry, we had sort of crossed paths here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited me to join. Andy, was it 2010? I want to say it was 2010.
Yeah, it was right. You were right at the beginning.
Yeah, my first year. Totally nervous, totally felt, in over my head, but jumped right in with both feet, and I've been judging ever since.
Yep.
All right.
Well, we liked Jeffrey right from the beginning. We like how serious he is.
He couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on there, but yeah, there it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always take the job very seriously. I don't take myself very seriously at all.
Yeah,
I like to have a really
superb judge.
I like to have a really good time doing, because we've got kind of the best job in the world, right? We get paid to sit around and sip liquor, right? Which,
usually with a lot of your friends too, right?
Yeah, with a room full of friends. So, college age me is high-fiving middle-aged me every day for the job that I get to have.
I really feel like if I could go back in time and talk to my high school self, my high school self would be like, "You do what for a living?" Huh?
Yeah, right.
And I think he'd be pretty excited about it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, totally.
So I imagine kind of something that you alluded to earlier, Anthony. I imagine that the first time you guys held one of these, you said 287 spirits. And obviously it has evolved a lot since then. I'd love to kind of get both of your insights on what you saw as a byproduct of kind of the explosion of craft spirits. Did you see a rise in quality? Did you just see a rise in just producers? How did that all kind of evolve from your scene?
I mean, from my end, it's been really crazy to watch, because I started judging when the term craft spirits was really kind of a brand new term. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would say that year we had, a few small kind of independent producers. And now we've got whole categories of small independent producers. It was like, there was like, I remember sitting there at the table tasting one or two kind of small producer bourbons, maybe one or two small producer gins. And now, the categories are kind of dominated by the smaller producers, honestly.
It's true.
Really?
Yeah.
But you don't get 408 gins from Diageo.
From five London distillers.
Yeah, that would be probably pretty just palate just destroying, I would imagine.
Well, it's fascinating how, particularly the craft producers, they're all over this country. I mean, there are a lot of them in Texas. There are a lot of them in the north central part of the country, but they're all over. I mean, everywhere, and it's exciting. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, it's also a little daunting sometimes. I remember early on whenever there was a new product, I was aware, it kind of everybody knew that a new product was coming out. Now it seems like there's one every day. There are products that every time I turn a corner, there's a product that I've never heard of before.
Right.
Yeah, it's gotten totally out of hand.
Well, and I think it's kind of, if I imagine, it's probably the wild, wild west. Like people are experimenting in ways that traditional distilling probably never even thought about.
This moment is going to change spirits forever.
Right.
No question.
And I think I remember, like, when I first started attending bar, I think it was like early 2000s, I probably could name those 8 gins. And now, I mean, because you couldn't get anything else. That was it. Like, if you had boodles on your back bar, you were kind of a big deal, Like
that was a rare, odd bird to have on your shelf back in the day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if it wasn't Tanqueray or, I think that was probably the most popular one. But if it wasn't that, then everybody was like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah, totally.
But when you first started seeing the craft spirits kind of come into the judging arena, did you see like a really high quality spirit, or were they a little bit unpolished and then they started getting better and better and better with time?
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
Absolutely no question. It's remarkable. What the top ones now are light years ahead of what was there in 2000.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And very cool. Okay. Yeah, because I'm kind of curious. Like I've had a handful of samples from new producers, and it seems like they get better at what they do very quickly.
Yes.
So I imagine the same thing on the judging side of that as well. And then I wanted to kind of ask you if you would be able to share what you guys look at when you're kind of examining a spirit. Obviously, we don't need to go into fine details, but I would love to kind of get a general sense of like, when you look at a spirit, how do you as a judging committee examine this spirit?
Well, I think the important thing is to know what the producer is trying to achieve and whether he achieves it. So basically, if you're, the basic route is, you first nose it, and we use in our judging, we use the neat glass. I don't know if you're aware of the neat glass, but the thing about the neat glass is that instead of when you nose it, instead of getting a nose full of ethanol, you get the actual aroma of the spirit. So that's where, we got a leg up right there. So then after that, obviously tasting and we try not to water them. If it's you can take 120% alcohol if you I wouldn't swallow it, but and we've had several of those in the sweepstakes. We had, I think the champ was 120, wasn't it? Something like that. So 60 proof.
And then
Or not 60 proof. What am I
very
talking
similar.
about? 120 proof, 60%
60%.
alcohol. That's what I meant.
That'll bite you back, man. That's a
Oh,
hot
yeah.
spirit.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you guys approach a spirit, is it very similar to like the approach that you have with wine? And maybe I can ask this one to Jeffrey. Like, when you're doing wine tasting, you're looking for kind of grape and terroir kind of representation. Is this atypical for this kind of wine? Is that kind of the mentality you guys have when you're tasting like a bourbon, for example, or a gin, London dry gin?
Of course, I mean, just like wine, it's one of the it's like judging a diamond, right? Like cut, clarity, color, carat. When you're judging a spirit, or you're judging a wine, or judging anything that you taste, is it true to type, right? And if not, trying to discern maybe what the producer is trying to do or say. If you're tasting, say, a pisco, what are we looking for? We're looking for the expression of the grape. We're looking for that kind of terroir, versus if we're tasting a bourbon or a single malt scotch. Is it representative of the category? So that's kind of, for me, that's a big important thing, is beyond do I like it, it's is this achieving what it's setting out to achieve?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Yeah, so it's got to represent that category really well then, and just be kind of like you drinking, you're like, this is really good bourbon, or a bourbon at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all had bourbons that taste like barrel aged vodka, and that's not for me, that's not representative of what bourbon really is.
Right.
Bourbon bourbon should have some exciting qualities, and so yeah, and that's kind of the fun part, is knowing each category, and then getting to explore what's happening, what these producers are trying to do in the category. I mean, yeah. I think gin was a really perfect example early on. There were a lot of people. There were a lot of people pushing the boundaries of what the definition of gin was. There were also, you could tell, people that were not super sure what gin was, and yet making a gin anyway. So you've got to kind of sift through those.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the questions I was going to ask you, actually. But when you guys when you guys sample a spirit, in no matter what category it is there something that just kind of sets it apart from everybody else, or is it just kind of, it could be a variety of things?
Well, I think that what Jeffrey was talking about is right on. You have on one side a certain structure and quality and message that basically transmits the type of spirit it is and where it's from.
Sure.
Then on the other side, you have the space for creativity, and I think that one of the most important things is to integrate those things together and create a seamless spirit that speaks your language and says the message that you want to give. Sure,
absolutely. Yeah. And then at the end, you mentioned that there's a sweepstakes involved as well. Can you kind of go through, like, once you've gone through the whole tasting panel, you've gone through all the spirits, how does that culminate into kind of the awards and what happens next?
Well, during the judging,
mm-hmm.
we ask the judges to, obviously, there are going to be a number of double gold winning spirits, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to the sweepstakes. So they have to, after they've done all the judging and their double golds are sitting there, they have to decide which ones they want to send to sweepstakes. So that's the first step of elimination. And then in the large categories like gin and bourbon and single malt, there are super tastings to, you've got 25 double gold gins. You got to get it down to, a manageable number. We got it down to like 4 or 5. And then they go to the sweepstakes round. And, it's there's a number of levels of elimination as we go. And, particularly with gin, I mean, I would say that, by definition, it has to have juniper in it. I mean, that's what gin is. It's vodka that's been flavored with juniper and other botanicals or whatever you want to put in there, and so there is a definition standard that you have to put it up against, and once that is achieved, then you keep the elimination going until you get. I think we had 5 in the sweepstakes.
Wow.
5 gins.
Wow. Okay.
And like last year, I'm not sure what the winner was this year, so I have to talk about last year. Last year, it was a Navy strength from Finland. So
Very cool. And then when you guys are tasting, Jeffrey, how many tastings are you guys doing in a day? Can you talk a little bit about how that kind of goes from like you arrive at the tasting, wherever the event's being held, and then how does that work throughout the day? Are people in specific spirits based off of their kind of expertise? Do you taste all spirits? Like how many do you taste a day? Like a little bit more the kind of the detail on what it takes to be a judge.
On a macro level, everybody's kind of tasting everything.
Mm-hmm.
We do have people that are serious experts in particular categories, and we do like to kind of load their tables up a little bit more heavily with those spirits that they are experts in.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to vary it. We try to group the tables so that there's a good kind of breadth of knowledge, and different palettes in there.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, we sit down at 9 o'clock in the morning, which, it's funny. My non-industry friends always just like recoil when I tell them I'm tasting 25 vodkas at 9 o'clock in the morning, on a Thursday. But yeah, we sit down and we go through. Oh, Andy, what do you think? Each judge probably goes through 120 different spirits in a day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily. It's interesting. We do start with vodka. That's funny. And years ago, we sent out a questionnaire to the people in the wine competition that said, "What do you want to what do you want to taste? We want to help you out and put you in the categories that you like." And all the responses came back, anything but Chardonnay. So for the wine competition, we make it equally unpleasant for everyone, and we taste Chardonnay first, and every panel gets like 10 Chardonnays to start with, but it's a good way to kind of calibrate your palate. And so for the same thing in the spirits competition, everybody gets to taste vodka.
Sure.
And boy, if you can't calibrate your palate on vodka, you're in trouble, because the differences are very simple, very slight, and very esoteric in a sense, but it definitely gets people going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's really good to start with vodka too, because you're fresh, and vodka is always just full of such subtle differences that starting fresh at 9 o'clock in the morning with vodka, rather than just punching your palate in the face with mezcal or single malt scotch first thing in the morning, means by the time you get to vodka, you're not picking up on a lot of those nuances. So
yeah, and then my follow-up question is, how do you not get like palate fatigue after so many in a day? Like,
well, we're professionals, Chris.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, you do for sure. I mean, it is exhausting,
right?
And we take breaks, and we've got a great staff of volunteers that's there to provide us with all of the cheese and celery and bread and crackers and water that we can handle. But usually we call it quits by 2, 3 in the afternoon, and go across the street and soak our tongues in a pint of Guinness,
right,
for its cooling properties.
Yeah. So and it must be just a matter of just repetition and doing it and knowing how to evaluate spirits, because even with someone new to wine, that can be a pretty new thing to take onto, and looking for that kind of detail can get really exhausting after a while, but the more you do it, it's like a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. All right. And then another question for you guys is, how do you guys choose and validate potential judges? Because I'm sure every bartender in the United States would be like, I could do that, but this isn't just about like personal taste. This is about truly evaluating a spirit as a quality.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually have a favorite. We were talking about gin, so a favorite gin, but it might not necessarily do that well in the competition, because it's just not quite as elegant, sophisticated, complex, whatever, as others.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah. And then when you're looking to bring on new judges or expanding the judge pool, how do you guys bring in new judges? What does that criteria look like?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with, people that we meet in the industry and that we know.
Mm-hmm.
I think where Jeffrey's concerned, I'm sure he finds other. You don't like the word mixologist, or what? No.
Yeah, I told you never to use that word around me, Andy.
All right. Other bar chefs. Other bar chefs.
We sort of gravitate to, and they gravitate to us, people who are passionate about spirits and experts in the field. And we're looking for people with a wide range of palates and experience and expertise, and we just it's an organic process. It's changing all the time.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great, and so I mean, it's such a small, it's a big industry, but it's also in a lot of ways a small industry, and we all kind of know each other, and we're meeting new people all the time, which is really exciting, and and talking amongst ourselves about people that we really want to work with, and
Very cool. Awesome. And then what is for both of you guys, what is a spirit category that you wish more people would try?
No, I personally don't really think of spirits that way. That I wish people would, I wish people would just enjoy spirits, period. I don't have any sort of personal interest in people pushing their own boundaries and trying things that they don't want to try. It's I think there's definitely some unsung heroes out there, but I don't have any sort of personal interest in pushing spirits on people.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And Anthony, any favorite categories that you wish more people would try?
Well, there are certain one that has been a sore point with me forever because nobody pays much attention to it, and that's Armagnac. And let's see other. Well, we're seeing mezcal come to the fore, and as I told you earlier, the best white spirit in the competition this year was a mezcal.
Sure.
And it's exciting to see it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. So I got to ask, is there any fun stories that you guys have had over the years judging these spirits? Anything you can share kind of behind
Well, there was
the
a
scenes?
flavored vodka that had ants in it.
What?
Wait, what?
Ants, like little crawly things.
When
They
was
weren't
this?
alive. They were just in there. And it was part of the flavor, apparently.
When was this?
It was
This
a
was
couple
not.
of years ago because Gary Groover was on the panel when we did that. We used to taste the strange and unusual stuff the day before the competition.
Oh,
And this thing had ants in it, and Gary and I were really excited about that. But the category that everybody hates is flavored vodka.
I don't hate it. I enjoy flavored vodka.
Jeffrey, do you have any fun stories that you'd love to share about kind of the tasting and the tasting panel and the experience?
One of my favorites times of the day of the first or sometimes the beginning of the second day is when we get to all of the cream-based liqueurs. And
wait a minute, I really like those.
I do too. It's actually what I'm a big like cream liqueur junkie. I have been from way back. I think my very favorite spirit in the world is probably Bailey's Irish Cream. To tell you the truth, I'm just such a monster. Like I can't keep it in the house because I'll just drink it. But when we do get to the cream liqueurs, just looking at the spit bucket at the end of that flight is I always have to take a picture of it because it is just disgusting. It's a disgusting look. And I always have to take a picture of it and send it to my friends because it's just like there's nothing just like a bucket full of creamy spit.
So when you guys are tasting, are you guys at the same table analyzing the same spirits?
The tables are typically 3 judges each, sometimes 4. If we have a brand new judge, we'll put them at a table with 3 other judges, but mostly it's 3, all tasting, each table's tasting different flights.
And okay, I bet there's been some amazing conversations around those tables.
Oh yeah, and it's such a passionate group that people are getting up in the middle and carrying a glass across the room. Well, we were before there was a global pandemic. We were getting up and you got to taste this. Like check this out. Walking over to your friend who will be super interested.
That's funny. Okay, that makes it so much more entertaining and interesting now.
Well, let me just say that doing the wine competition with 60 judges, all wine people, and then doing the spirits competition is a big difference.
How so?
Wine people take themselves much too seriously.
Oh yeah, the spirits people are a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are. My God,
a lot of fun.
Crazy people.
Yeah.
Oh man, the contrast is pretty stark when you put it that way. I can
I
imagine
mean,
that
just,
one.
just go into a wine bar and then go into a cocktail bar and just notice the crowds and notice the bartenders. That's the difference right there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I remember the first bartender field trip I ever took. It was like holding on for dear life on a bucking bronco. It was like, here we go, guys, all together now.
Yeah, I'll never go on another one of those trips personally.
I think I'm still like injured from those.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But a wine field trip, that sounds very, very calm, very
Very sedate.
relaxed.
Very sedate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to ask both of you, and this will be some of the last questions here. Is there any spirit that has come across your tasting panel that you just thought was not great, and you could use the word awful? And I'm not looking for spirits producer's name. I definitely don't want to do that. But I'd love to share kind of the evolution of how that worked out.
Well, I remember that like the first time I ever tasted a liqueur made from pine,
Mm.
Mm.
and I said to myself, "This is horrible," because it wasn't quite even emulsified. It had kind of lumpy stuff in it.
Oh my!
And, but now that's acceptable, and not the way that one was because it was badly made, but a liqueur made from pine. There are a couple of them that are coming through and doing okay.
Sure.
So that's an evolution, but obviously the evolution in the botanicals and gin. I don't think you could call anything in single malt an evolution, but I think that what we're seeing is a lot of the change in single malts is that we're getting a lot of examples without an age specification,
Sure.
and that indicates, I think, that they're blending a little bit within the single malt distillery. And I think that actually adds complexity and interest to some of them. And let's see. Well, in bourbon, there's an explosion of wonderful single barrel and all sorts of other iterations of bourbon, and particularly with the craft people. The craft people have kind of taken over and run with it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time.
How about you, Jeffrey? Any spirits that just didn't work for you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, anytime you do this, there's going to be some dogs. I also judge a lot of cocktail competitions, and we try not to judge too harshly, but yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some, there's always going to be some stinkers in there.
Sure. Yeah.
There's that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, absolutely. And I was always, I actually had this conversation with my wife the other day, and I was going to ask you guys, but in general, I would assume that anybody that enters their spirit into a judging competition is probably ready for their spirit to be judged. Would you guys kind of align with that? Is that something
Yes.
like it's a fairly polished spirit? It's usually pretty refined, and it's looking to win.
Well, they're all looking to win. I mean, as Andy says, like every producer that enters feels that their product is worthy of a gold medal.
Sure.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the core sort of tenets that we take to the table when we judge is really sitting down and judging everything fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And putting the time in and really looking at the product, because of course every producer that enters feels that their product is worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want one other thing that has come up in the last few years and is very exciting is Baijiu. We had 150 Baijus entered this year.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are watching or listening who don't know what Baijiu is, it's the largest selling spirit in the world because there's 1.5 billion people in China that are drinking it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an ancient spirit, and it's made mostly with sorghum in very arcane ways. And, the first time we had it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and people were going, "Ooh, this stuff is weird." But this year, we had judges who came in and said, "Oh God, I want to judge Baijiu." I mean, it is an acquired taste, but I have definitely acquired it. I think it's delicious.
Sure.
Yeah, it can be very off-putting to novices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first time I had it, it reminded me of drinking what was left over in the plant water. Like, you water your plant and the dish at the bottom. Like, and I'm not sure that was Baijiu, but it was god awful.
I mean, there are also poorly made Baijus out there.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that's so kind of funny about it is, people who judge these pretty rare, these not rare, but these kind of out there spirits that aren't super commonplace. Sometimes you start with a bad one. I mean, it's like my first experience with gin was not a good one because I drank a bunch of crappy gin in high school. Doesn't mean the whole category is bad.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. So. Very cool. So, and I think one of the last questions I want to ask you, you kind of touched on this, Anthony, earlier, mentioning that, when somebody wins one of the awards from your competition, it is kind of a signal to the consumer that this is a quality product and it's worth investing in and it's worth trying.
Right.
What does it mean for producers? Like, if they win a spirit, an award from your spirits competition, what does that mean for them?
Oh, it's a huge marketing advantage for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we give them the opportunity to put our metal in their advertising, and they all do. I mean, if you look at the at spirits advertising across the board, if they want a gold medal or a double gold medal at San Francisco, it's in the ad. There's a picture of it. I mean, that's the thing that, I mean, let's face it. What's the purpose of this competition anyway? It's so that when the consumer walks into a liquor store and sees, 40 gins on the lined up on the wall, which one should they buy? And this helps if there's a shelf talker or some kind of indication that this is the one that won a double gold at San Francisco. It gives that producer very much the leg up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. And then just for you each personally, is there anything you'd like to share? Anything coming up that you're excited about?
Coming up.
Oh, just in general life, like professionally, if there's anything that you have kind of working on, books, seminars, anything like that.
Oh, yeah, I'd say drink as much as you can. No.
Oh boy.
Right. And I think there's certainly an exciting trend now in the canned seltzer, hard seltzers. There's canned cocktails that have really gotten excellent, and there's a lot of stuff to take a look at. So get busy.
And how about you, Jeffrey? Anything you're working on you'd love to share?
The thing that I'm most excited about, Chris, is getting back behind the bar. We are hoping to open sometime in June.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we were open last summer and then had to call it quits in November. So I've been not behind the bar for the past few months, and I am just really excited to get back to doing what I love to do and do the best.
You are the best.
Oh, Andy. This Sunday will be my 25-year bartending anniversary.
Wow, so, crazy!
And
congratulations, man!
Thank you. Yeah, and the second anniversary that I won't be spending it behind the bar. I usually working my anniversary, and I haven't for the past couple of years, and so I'm just really excited to get back behind the bar.
Yeah, I think collectively, I think we're all ready for things to start getting lifted and being able to say hi to guests and all that. I think all ready for that for sure.
Yeah, I feel kind of worthless without a bar in front of me.
Yeah,
I don't really know what to do if I don't have 3 feet of 3 feet of material in between me and the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then last couple questions here. Social media platform that you guys usually gravitate towards, either personally or for the spirits competition.
Mine's my personal one is at Jeff Morgan, and the San Francisco World Spirits Competition is at FSF WSC. Andy?
I'm sorry, I got distracted.
It's SFW Spirits Comp on Instagram.
Oh yes, right.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's SF Spirits Comp COMP.com.
SFW Spirits Comp on Instagram. It's the social media handle.
And we'll have those links in the show notes for everybody as well. Looking to follow you guys. But thank you very much for your time. I do have one last random question for you, Jeffrey. And that is, do you have a white whale cocktail that you haven't tried to create but haven't quite nailed perfectly? And I'll go ahead and kind of start with mine. I've tried to make a crystal clear Bloody Mary over the years, and I never have got it right. So that is kind of my white whale cocktail that I haven't created. Anything for you?
No. Anything that any cocktail that I want to make, I just sit down and figure out. If something's not working, then I just scrap it. I don't really have a drink that I continually. So one thing that I will say is I've always. And I've tinkered with it. Two drinks that I've tinkered with over the years, and I can't really understand what the draw is to both the aviation cocktail and the Vieux Carré. And I've tried to kind of perfect those and get them in a place where I enjoy them, and I just don't get it. So maybe that's the closest thing.
That works. That totally works. Cool, gentlemen. Thank you so much again. I appreciate your time. And
thanks,
we'll
Chris.
have links in the show notes to everything we talked about. But once again, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Once again, thank you to our guests, Anthony Diaz-Blue and Jeffrey Morgenthaler, for their time and showing us a little bit behind the scenes of the sheer amount of work that it takes to have a tasting panel of this size and this many spirits. I don't know about you, but this sounds like a really fun thing to be a judge, but it also sounds like a pretty significant palate challenge as well. So hats off to all the professional judges out there. You guys are doing a great job. So we'll have some more podcasts for you in the future. But until then, I hope you all are staying safe and having some great cocktails. Cheers, everyone.